Hello and welcome to the Ilderon Tales. This is the campaign journal. This is going to be episode 3 of the campaign journal, covering book 3, saga 1, episode 3 of all of the campaigns. So with that out of the way, let's jump into this. I'm going to try and do these ones a little bit quicker, see if I can spend like less than 10 minutes on each group and just give like the super down and dirty details. So the Gladiators campaign started when they had finished their fight inside of the Rio Fier arena. The arena organizer was holding up their hand and celebrating their victory as they'd won their first exhibition match. Going into down into the fighting pits, the party licked their wounds and just cleaned up after their fight as they waited for the other exhibition matches to finish. Some of the members of the party watched the other exhibition matches and watched the other exhibition matches and watched some watched the start of the tournament too, and watched some really one-sided matches as like some guilds wiped the floor with some of the other guilds. Everybody who either lost or won, it was by like a huge margin. From there, their sponsor, Grimstone Heartringer, came into the fighting pit and congratulated the guild paid in blood on their first victory. He was a little disappointed that he couldn't strangle them to death, but they made him a lot of money. The party convinced him to continue to sponsor them through the other arenas inside of the Fey Fallen Circle, and he agreed. The party then convinced him to pay them a higher wage. He agreed in the future to pay them 20% of his winnings. At this point, he paid them still 10%, but also gave them an additional well-done bonus. Grimstone ended up making like 2017 gold. Out of the 2017 gold, he ended up paying the party like 400 and like 411 gold, and then they divided it up amongst themselves. From there, the party went to celebrate. Before they could celebrate, the arena organizer stopped them and gave them their commendation signet, which was a pendant of a adamantine tree with a sunrise behind it. The sunrise was made of gold. The entire pendant was about the size of the palm of a hand. The party took time and valued and inspected this and valued the signet was worth at least 140 gold on its own that they could sell it for. Not that they planned to, because they needed 7 more of these pendants in order to compete in one of the greatest arenas of all time. From there, the party left to rest for the day and to celebrate. They went to a inn, and Grimstone told them that he would travel with them to the next arena whenever they were ready to leave. He'd be staying at a different inn, right on the edge of the docks, not very difficult to find. Tumbutu and Melise went to try and drink themselves under. The bartender of the tavern that they decided to stay at told them he would give Tumbutu a free bottle of wine if he could convince one of the performers there to leave. The performer was not one that the bartender had hired, but rather a performer from a rival tavern who was just there to steal patronage and kind of upstage the entertainment the tavern keep had hired. From there, Tumbutu, not willing to get into a fight unless he's drunk, went up and asked the performer very nicely to leave, at which point she nodded and she did leave, telling Tumbutu where to find her should he seek better entertainment. The bartender kind of grumbled, but nonetheless paid up on his side of the deal. From there, Tumbutu and Malise drunk themselves unconscious. Seas went outside in sentry mode and kind of just stayed, went into a alert slumber, or rather, I guess, a restful watch. XV and Regus had rented a room for the night that they went into, and they slept in. Brewbark rented his own room, and Zeeth went and found a very, very, very cheap tavern and a very cheap room to stay in. From there, everybody awoke on the next day, eager to decide to see what fate holds for them next. They've all, some of them met up, some of them went into town to buy supplies. Regus went to try and get a better weighted weapon for his size. He was able to find somebody who wasn't going to take advantage of him, another halfling out there who appeared to be picking people's pockets. Seeing the value of Regus's size, the halfling took Regus to his boss, who was a artificer of sorts, who was creating magical items. His boss, a man who went by the name of Al, told Regus that he would be able, that a smith owed him a favor, and he could procure the item that he wanted, provided that him and Regus start up a beneficial friendship. The man used diamonds to craft his magical items. Al used diamonds to craft his magical items, and diamonds were a controlled substance. He said should Regus acquire any diamonds and sell them, and send them to Al's way, it would more than make up for the favor. Al implied that the diamonds would be stolen, however he did not like using the S word. From there, Regus nodded, probably not realizing that he had made a deal with some sort of mafia member. He went to the appointed smith, and the smith was relieved to have his favor be giving Regus, a mithril weapon. As the smith was finally off of his debt of owing Al. Walking back to the party, the halfling walking alongside Regus informed him that if he was a gladiator, he's heading to the arena of Soromangan next. Soromangan is it is a big port, but it's much smaller than Rio Fair, and the people there are known to not play by the rules. Regus shrugged and was excited for it, not really fearing any sort of danger. The party then got together, decided that they had the option of going forward to the next arena or staying and earning renown in this arena. They decided all to move forward onto Soromangan. That's where that session ends. It was a shorter session. The next group was the Scholars. The Scholars session picks up right after they teleport. Right after they teleport out of Lucilius' cabin into the Galena Mave, which is the stronghold, the fortress of the Silver Sigil. It's where they have their headquarters at. Heading there, they all decided to wash up, as they had covered themselves with mud to Master's tracks Master's scent while they were going through the bog. They all washed up. They brought the harbor master to their advisor, Anarelus. They turned in the job. Anarelus was talking to a man named Ondus Wetchard, who was the adjudicator for the Silver Sigil, its current leader. Andis was talking about a possible plan and wanted to know what was going on inside of that town, Kaitelis Falls, and Andis was talking about a plan for dealing with the Shield Hand. The party then delivered their report in triplicate to Andis, informing him of everything that was going on inside of the town of Kaitelis Falls, that the Shield Hand had indeed began building a port there. She was buying slaves in excess, and she was using slaves to mine opals out of the waterfall and ship them into boats, presumably back to the city of Greylor's Fist. Andis was impressed with the party's work, and he told them that they'll need eyes inside of Greylor's Fist. If the party can prove themselves, even though the job is outside of their rank, he'll consider them for the post. The party then nodded. Andis left. Andis assigned Anarelus with coming up with a plan and handling the bog. Anarelus tried to pawn it off into the party. The party's like, no, we're not touching the bog. After a deeper conversation with the harbor master, Anarelus and the party found out that the slaver that was selling slaves inside of Kaitelis Falls was in a small meeting with the Shield Hand of Greylor's Fist. Deeming that it was probably important, Anarelus decided to cast some powerful divination magic, casting a spell of Legend Lore to find out more about it, more than the Harbor Master could tell them. While he did that, the party left and went to the boarding house just to rest up until they had their next assignment. Meanwhile, in the boarding house, Azure and they called a meeting together. They agreed upon what to do with their wills in case any of them dies. And Isaiah went to find some herbs, and Lex and Azure played some music and attracted a small crowd around them, talking to one of the members of the crowd. Turned out to be a woman that Lex had a loose connection with, a woman by the name of Zav Calavera, who was a relative of somebody who had helped Lex out of a tight spot. Zav informed them that she had a assignment to investigate a port city, much like they did. However, the city was completely abandoned when she sent agents inside of the city to see what was going on. It struck her as odd, and she chalked it up to pirate raids. From there, the party got a sending about from Anarelus. Anarelus said that he had casted Legend Lore on the slaver, Dean Doolin, and found out she was involved in some much more nefarious things than they thought, and that she would need to be brought in for more intensive interrogation and questioning. An agreement, the party met up with Anarelus. He procured them travel towards Beechwood Retreat, a large mercantile city in the pleasant waters of the cove, are in the pleasant straits of Galkin, or of the Clutch. Once they were transported into Beechwood Retreat, the person who teleported them there told them to stay away from the low docks part of town. The party then immediately started heading towards the low docks. That's where that session leaves off. And that brings us to the Nobles. The Nobles was a very fun session for their session 3. Picking up inside of the market square of Futar Hamlet. which wasn't even a market square. It's more like just like a small square. The party was deciding what to do and where to go next. They remembered that the city, Somar Villa, would be swarmed with knights, likely by the time they got back to it. They watched as the Oswins, Donaganya Oswin, Oro Oswin, and Maria Oswin loaded up into their carriage and began leaving. Donaganya pulled up next to the party and stopped the carriage and told the party to never speak her name again to anyone. And if she did, Donaganya would come back and hunt them. Exchanging a small bit of sass and doing so horribly, Asuandria stuck her tongue out at Donaganya, and Donaganya pulled off. The party was then trying to decide what to do next. Asuandria said she would catch up with them, and she was going to go back to the abandoned Oswin house and see if she could find something that had the Oswin scent on it, because as soon as they disappeared into the wind, they would not be able to be found again, because all three of the Oswins were wearing necklaces that protected them against divination magic. Asuandria's plan was to find something that they could use with their scent on it, and then to buy some tracking dogs, or tracking hounds, or bloodhounds, follow their scent, and once they get to whatever town the Oswins are settling in, hiring somebody to go beat the Oswins up. The party disagreed with that course of action, but still followed Donaganya anyways, or rather still followed Asuandria anyways to help her search down the house for any clues. They were able to find a few items they would be able to use to track the Oswins, and then they were deciding on their next course of action. Daphne didn't want to be with the party anymore, as things were getting very dangerous, just being alongside with them, finding out that, Corwin was an evil mage, slowly regaining her memory. Donaganya was a mind mage who threatened the party in case, if they did anything, etc., 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 etc. The party decided to drop Daphne back off in Somar Villa, splitting the party up in a way so that everybody who had necklaces that protected them against scrying and divination would go back to Somar Villa. Everybody who didn't would then stay inside of the house, the abandoned house in Fiertar Hamlet for the night until they knew what they were going to do next. And they would go to the Kalkin and call Alexander's mom and ask for help. And hopefully the Kalkin would be able to find and fight and kill Donaganya. That said, the party split with Alexander, Marrow, Alexander, Claw, and Stradora and Daphne heading back to Somar Villa, and the rest of the party staying inside of the cabin. The party that went to Somar Villa ran into Corwin on their way on the road. Corwin was just walking and whistling happily as she was heading towards Fiertar Hamlet. She flagged down the party and asked if they had met Donaganya inside of Fiertar Hamlet. The party kind of hid their answer from her and said, oh yeah, we don't know where she went off in this direction, and Corwin kind of picked up that they were lying. And she was very frank with the party and was just like, look, you're kids, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I am going to go kill her. Nothing you can say or do is going to stop me from murdering that woman, so how about you just be truthful and tell me where she is. after knowing Donaganya's motives, the party told her that they did meet Donaganya, but she had left and fled the town. Corwin said she was just going to go then to Furtar Hamlet and search down their house and see if she could find any clues to where they went. Just then, Stradora informed Corwin that Stradora had put the brass knuckle that she had shown Corwin, that Corwin would be able to use to scry on Stradora. Stradora had put that brass knuckle onto the Osawin's carriage, and that Corwin could use that to find the Osawins. Corwin nodded in delight and said her goodbyes to the party. Before she could leave, the party convinced her to not kill Oro, even though Corwin thought Oro deserved whatever was coming to him, as Oro was there and present when Donaganya wiped Corwin's memory. Moving from there, that party went into the city. As they got into Somar Villa, there were knights on every major road going into Somar Villa, checking caravans, looking for a wanted person, or wanted people, presumably the people who had kidnapped the princess. Of those people, 3 of them were all on a horse together, or were all on horses together, trying to think of a plan. Stradora and Claw decided to make a distraction so everybody could get by. Claw went up and started talking to the guards. They immediately recognized him as Lord Esterai. Then Stradora attacked a owlbear that was pulling a carriage in front of them. The owlbear went crazy and started making a scene as it was getting ready to get off of its harness and attack people. The knight captain that was trying to arrest Claw ran over to the owlbear. Stradora and Alexander jumped on their horse and galloped off. Daphne tried to run by and grab Claw, unable to do so because the guards stabbed her horse. Their horse died, and both Daphne and Claw were stuck, surrounded by guards. When faced with either running or confronting what they did, Claw chose to confront what they did, and he went and helped the guard captain bring the owlbear into line. Once the owlbear was calmed, the guard captain turned and arrested, or the knight turned and arrested Claw, and said that she was bringing him to the real Lord Esterai, Marrow, who was in town handling this investigation, and asked where the princess was. Claw refused to talk or give up her location. Upon Stradora and Alexander went to the Kalkin office, sent a sending off to meet about what was going on and that they needed help killing a mage. And then they paid for the horse that had died. Got a little bit of information about some greater things going on within the Kalkin. Sindel was a arcane sentinel right now, and they made friends with another seeker named Trade. From there, Stradora and Alexander headed back to Furtar Hamlet. Claw, on the other hand, while being forced to talk to Marrow, revealed to Marrow that his mind had been altered by a mind mage, and he refused to give up the princess's location, but told Marrow that they were safe. With this information, Marrow was sated and told them to release Claw. Claw then asked a couple more questions of Marrow, personal ones, before finally the father let Claw go. As Claw was leaving, he heard Marrow say to the knight to follow him, expecting Claw to lead the knight back to the princess so she could be brought in for safety. from there, the other half of the party, which was the rest of the party left in the cabin, had a heart-to-heart, and Lumilia cooked food for everyone, while Kenneth and Asuandra talked about fathers not really living up to expectations, and what Kenneth would do if he saw his father, which would be very, very unpleasant. That's where all of the session 3s end, and this weekend we're going into, or rather, probably by the time this video hits, maybe we will have had session 1s, or session 4s. Who knows? The internet is a weird place where time doesn't matter, so we'll figure it out. Thank you for watching. Please tune in to all of the episodes live. You can hit the subscribe button, and if you do, you'll be able to witness all of these great shenanigans that happen live every single Saturday and every other Sunday. You've been great. Have a great day.